For the very first time, the Department of Justice is opening a specific office called the Second Amendment Rights Section, but what's really wild is where they're putting it. It's going right inside the Civil Rights Division. Yeah, the same division that handles things like voting rights and fighting discrimination.
Okay, let's really dig into why this new office is such a historic first. And listen, this isn't some idea being kicked around for the future. It's happening right now. The office officially opens its doors on December 4th, and its mission kicks off immediately. This quote from the Attorney General really tells you everything you need to know about the philosophy here. The thinking is that for too long, the right to bear arms has been treated like it's less important than other rights. Well, this new office is designed to change that, to put it on the exact same level of federal protection as, say, freedom of speech.
All right, so we know why it exists. But what is this new office actually going to do day to day? Let's break down the core mission of SARS.
So the mission really boils down to 4 main jobs. First, they're going to investigate when state and local governments violate gun rights. Second, they're going to legally challenge licensing rules they see as too restrictive. Third, they'll review federal policies to make sure they're compliant. And finally, and this is a big one, they're tasked with actively protecting the firearms industry itself from legal attacks. And they've been pretty specific about their targets. This office is going to look into officials who deliberately slow-walk permit applications. It's going to scrutinize licensing rules that are seen as being weaponized to stop people from owning guns. And it will push back against what gun rights advocates call lawfare, which are lawsuits they say are just designed to bankrupt legal gun companies. Of course, gun safety advocates would call that same thing legal accountability.
Now, you might be wondering, where does this new office get all its muscle? Well, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's being powered by some absolutely game-changing Supreme Court decisions. Let's look at the legal fuel for this whole mission.
You see, the legal ground here has completely shifted. It really started in 2008 with the Heller case, which affirmed an individual's right to a handgun for self-defense at home. Then, McDonald applied that right to the states. But the real earthquake was the Bruen decision in 2022. That one didn't just extend the right to carry outside the home, it created a totally new and much stricter test for judging any and all gun laws.
And this right here is the key to everything. The Bruen case gave us the history and tradition test. So what does that mean? In simple terms, for any modern gun law to be constitutional, the government has to prove that it's consistent with the types of gun regulations that existed way back when the country was founded. If they can't find a clear historical comparison from the 1700s or 1800s, the law is probably going to be struck down. This is the legal weapon the new section will be using. But, and this is a really important but, we have to remember this point. In that same landmark Heller decision, Justice Scalia, who wrote the opinion, made it very clear that the right is not unlimited. He even gave examples of what he called presumptively lawful regulations, like banning felons from owning firearms or keeping guns out of schools. And this is the exact nuance that gun safety advocates always point to.
So what this all means is that the federal government is no longer just a referee in the national gun debate. It has now officially picked a team, put on a jersey, and stepped onto the field as a major player.
And man, when you look at it like this, you can really see the political whiplash. The previous administration set up the Office of Gun Violence Prevention. Their whole framework was that gun violence is a public health crisis that needs more regulation. This new Second Amendment rights section completely flips that script. It defines the issue as a civil right that needs federal protection from regulation. It's a total 180.
This really shows you the genius behind putting this new section in the Civil Rights Division. For decades, we've had the voting rights section, right? Its job is to make sure people aren't discriminated against when they try to vote. Well, the Second Amendment rights section is set up to do something similar, but with a twist. Its job is to make sure the right itself isn't being infringed upon for any law-abiding citizen.
Of course, not everyone is celebrating this. State officials, like New York's Attorney General, are pushing back hard. They argue that these common-sense gun laws, like bans on large-capacity magazines, are absolutely essential for public safety. From their point of view, these items have no place in our communities because they're designed for mass casualty events.
But the gun rights side sees that completely differently. You have groups like the National Shooting Sports Foundation who look at those same laws and call them unconstitutional attacks on a legal business. To them, this new office is a long overdue federal shield to protect them from what they see as politically motivated attacks from the states. And this brings us right to the heart of the entire conflict. It all boils down to your definition of common sense. One side sees this list of laws as vital, life-saving public safety measures that have been upheld by courts. The other side sees the exact same list as a series of unconstitutional infringements. And now, with the history and tradition test and a whole DOJ section ready to enforce it, every single one of these laws is a potential target. The very meaning of common sense is now the battlefield.
So, the big question is, what is this new office? Is it a federal guardian protecting a fundamental civil right? Or is it a federal opponent challenging a state's ability to pass its own public safety laws? We don't know the answer yet, but one thing is for certain. With the full power of the Department of Justice now officially in the fight, a brand new, far more intense chapter in the debate over the Second Amendment has just begun.